And we are back today to talk a little bit of Oklahoma recruiting and the junior day that is happening right now and talk about the guys that we heard that potentially could be there. We'll do a follow-up video on this one on Monday because there's just going to be a lot that comes out of this. But today I am joined by Jay with Unfair Sports. Jay, how are you doing today?
What's good, PG? Thanks for having me as usual, man. Doing well. I'm getting back in the groove of things. We got a lot of news to talk about.
We do, and I'm gonna be honest. I'm watching the Oklahoma basketball game right now, and if they pull this win out, I might have to transition to some basketball content because this is big, 49-33 to end the half. I am stoked for Oklahoma basketball right now. That's a big win if they can get this today.
Oh, I agree. I agree. That'd be huge. That'd be huge for the recruiting trail and huge for just the morale around Norman.
Yeah, because talking about it today, there are a lot of juniors becoming seniors this following year at this game right now for Junior Day for Oklahoma, and kind of diving into a little bit about that today. There's an extensive list of guys out there for OU, 5-star, 4-star guys in 2024, some 5-star kids in 2025 that Oklahoma potentially could be looking at. And I just kind of want to dive through this list. I think let's start at the defensive line first, because I think that's the one that a lot of people are focused on, especially with David Stone taking all these visits and going everywhere. I think OU fans are a little on edge, but I think this is going to be a great year for OU on the defensive line. Just talent coming out of Oklahoma, OU bred kids. Today you have Nigel Smith here on campus, Aiden Breland, Zadavian Sims, Zena Yumio Azulu, Dominic McKinley, Jason Ross, Logan Thomas. What's your thoughts here on the defensive line class or the defensive line guys that are here for Junior Day?
You know, we've talked about this a few times, and one key thing that we're recognizing that Coach Venables and staff is doing is they're really focusing on the defense, and that's the struggle that we've had as a school over the last, I guess you could say, 6 or 7 years, probably all the way back to when Coach Venables left Oklahoma. That was a struggle. That was one place where we just started to see a trickle down. We weren't going up. We were always trending down. And bringing in great defensive players is key if you want to be successful, especially transitioning into the SEC. I know everyone believes that, oh, you go to the SEC, they're going to clobber you and everything. There's really two schools you're worried about it in the SEC, and it's Alabama and Georgia. Tennessee is slowly starting to trek up. You're getting a little bit from Ole Miss and LSU, but that's really it. Everybody else in the SEC, they're beatable. We've seen them beat by other schools. We've seen them beat by other teams and other conferences. So my point is that with Coach Venables, their focus is in that staff. They're really trying to key in on getting really good defensive players, ones that can be competitive once we hit the college football playoffs as well as the SEC. Because don't worry, Coach BV is going to get us to the college football playoffs at least once. And the question is going to be is what is our defense going to look like when we go up against some of these other great offenses around the country?
Yeah, and one thing that Oklahoma is specifically doing in preparing to go to the SEC is they're not only going after the elite talent all over the country, but they're also going over the elite talent in just their area, whether it's in Oklahoma, Kansas City, Missouri, or even the upper part of Texas, maybe in like the Dallas metro area or areas surrounding Dallas. You've seen that with Nigel Smith, the defensive lineman out of Melissa, Texas, who he's on the borderline of being a 5-star. In the composite, he's ranked at a 36th right now, but dude is going to be tremendous. Got a lot of talent, and a guy that's been offered by Oregon, Georgia, Florida, Michigan, Alabama, a guy that's highly coveted and recruited. What's your thoughts maybe around Nigel Smith and where potentially that he lands?
I mean, I've seen Nigel show a lot of love to Oklahoma, and I know that you've done an interview with him in the past, which was fantastic, by the way. Um, I sense he's going to be an Oklahoma kid. You know, the I guess the struggle for a lot of people when it comes to the way Coach Venable does things is that he encourages the players to go make visits, go see places, go out there, quote unquote date. Um, or get to know, every environment that they can and enjoy the recruiting process. I think that's the one thing that's key. Enjoy the recruiting process. It's the one time you're really going to get it unless you hit the transfer portal, and you probably don't want to. But the one time coming out of high school, you're going to really get courted by a lot of schools and given all of the special treatment, the red carpet, um, presentation, and all of that because you're a player that people want. And so, because of that, you got to go out there and enjoy it. And so, BV has always told the players, man, go enjoy that. But when you're ready to commit and you're ready to be one place, finalize it there. Don't jump around. And it makes it a lot easier because when he says that to them, it's a you do this, and then when it's my turn, I'm going to take one player off my list so that I'm only recruiting a specific number. This is my number. You're one of this group, and I'm not going to over recruit this position if you commit to me. And so it's a give and take. And so I know a lot of people have balked at the idea of doing that, but that's the way he likes to do his system, to where there's more of a trust and a commitment between the team and the players, and I appreciate it. So I see Nigel going a lot of places. I see Nigel going to get some visiting because a lot of people are coveting him. He is he's a 4-star top 40 player in the country. So there's no reason why all the top big boys aren't going to be going after him. But at the same time, hopefully Coach BV can just reel him in quickly, and then Nigel can just focus on school and getting to Oklahoma January of next year.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a June or July commitment for Oklahoma. Probably after the Champ U barbecue. I would assume sometime pretty quickly after that. I know that there's a lot of talk circulating that Texas A&M is going to be making Nigel Smith a top priority. And I don't feel like OU fans should really be scared of Texas A&M in this recruitment, just because I think they're coming in a little too late to make him a top priority here. I mean, Nigel Smith I think he's pretty much got his mind focused on probably 3 schools where he wants to go. And I'm pretty confident that OU's in that list. But
yeah, mentioning A&M is key. They lost Nick Williams. Now they still got Elijah Robinson, who is, one of those coaches that defensive linemen love playing for. He's built great rapport, and so we can't discount that. Even with the Jimbo Fisher fiasco stuff that's going on, just with internally, Elijah Erob still got that line on lock. But you're right. They came in a little late. Nick Williams was known for going out there and getting players a little early. Really, he had a really good eye. Now he's at Colorado. So with that, there's a good chance that A&M is completely out of this one. But I do think that Nigel's going to go ahead and make sure that he does a holistic view of everything before he makes a decision.
Well, and let's be honest. If you're not Zadavian Sims and David Stone, and you're defensive lineman at Oklahoma, and you see all of the talent that they are recruiting, you kind of want to get your spot locked up as quickly as possible, because David Stone and Zadavian Sims have a spot on this team, regardless whether BV has his number or not. Because those are 2 Oklahoma guys that everybody is feasting to have on this team, and BV will make a spot for. So if you're Nigel Smith, I would assume you want to get your spot locked down earlier rather than later, because another guy that the Oklahoma Sooners have on campus today that a lot of people should be paying attention to is the 4-star edge out of Liberty North out in Kansas City, Missouri, Jason Ross. Right now in the composite, he's a 150 player. 247 has him ranked as 112th player, but this is a guy that has been quickly rising through the ranks, and I expect he could be another PJ Adebayor, where he ends up being a 5-star pretty late, a guy that's been pretty underlooked. And when you look at Jason Ross and his commitment, there's been 3 main players here. You've got Nebraska, Kansas State, and Kansas. So if you look at those 3 schools that have primarily been recruiting him and making him a priority target, you would think that Oklahoma could easily come in here and win this battle over those 3 schools, depending on where Jason's loyalties lie and where he wants to stay, whether he wants to stay in state or not. But this is a guy that he's just extremely athletic, and on the edge position, I believe by that point you're for sure losing Grimes, because I think he'll be out by then. Depending on what Ethan Downs does, he could be in the league. So there could be some openings on the edge position. What's your thoughts here on Jason Ross?
I haven't dug too deep into Ross to be honest, but he seems like a player that is moving up has an upward trajectory right now. A lot of schools, of course, are offering him. He's got a lot of Big Ten schools on here. I'm going through his list of players while you were kind of list of schools as you were talking. I mean, you got the Tennessees, he's got the USC's, the Wisconsins of the world, Notre Dame, Michigan. He's got some heavy hitters in there. The one that's surprising me in here I don't see yet is Alabama, and that tells me a little something about the talent on him, is that, not every elite's going after him. But at the same time, you made a good point of how PJ Adebawore really had a fast uphill swing. I think On Three was really the first ones to say, no, this dude's a 5-star. We're going to label him a 5-star because he's got the talent that we're looking for. And then everybody else started to slowly come in and be like, you know what, you're right. And then on 24/7's last rankings, he became a 5-star plus because every single recruiting site gave him a 5-star. So I think that Ja'Shawn Ross has a chance of doing that. Like I said, where OU's trying to lock up a lot of that Kansas City area, big enough metro, NFL city where you can get a whole bunch of really good, talented players. I think that they are trying to lock up KC to go along with the whole state of Oklahoma, close the borders and say, nope, nobody can come in here and take these kids from us. And if Adebayo shows up the way that we expect, rankings quickly. I mean, he's already top 150, which as a composite, but on 24/7's is the top 112. He's number 112 in the country. Huge. And so that means he's probably going to move up, especially if he performs over these summer camps and this coming season. There's a good chance I could see him going and becoming a top 100 player by the end of this cycle. And heck, he may push for a 5-star if he sizes up. I think at the 6'4", 220, that's where people kind of aren't giving him that number yet, but he also is a basketball player too. So if he shows the speed and the strength and he gets a little bit bigger, dude could move up to a 5-star.
Yeah, and you talked about Oklahoma locking up the state of Oklahoma, but you also talked about Kansas City. Well, there's actually been quite a bit of talent coming out of the Kansas and Missouri area, and I know this is probably something a lot of people don't realize, but there's actually an academy out there in Branson, Missouri, where elite basketball recruits are coming out of. And so you're starting to see a lot of college talent coming out of those two states because of the academies. And you've got at least some in North with Williams Winery, Caden Green. Now you have Ja'Shawn Ross down in Kansas City, Missouri. And I'm sure I'm probably missing some other guys, but Kansas and Missouri are going to be some interesting states that are around us that I think a lot of people should be paying attention to in terms of talent that are coming out of those.
Oh, I agree with you there. I mean, you have Jaden Riddle. He's out of Missouri, tight end. I mean, right now he's a 3-star, top 500 player, but I mean, he could turn up as well. So yeah, no, the getting players in the Kansas City area definitely is a priority because that metro is growing, and I mean, there's a lot of high end football that's happening up there. So definitely something to keep an eye on.
Yeah. So is there any of these defensive line guys or edge rushers that surprise you that are on campus today?
Aiden Breland. We talked about him in the green room or whatnot, even though we know that he's made some visits here before. Still getting a Matterdie player out of California coming here potentially multiple times is big. California is still producing some really good players right now. Some of the top quarterbacks in the country were out of California. You CJ Stroud and your Bryce Youngs. Now that they're gone, we're going to see who's going to replace them, which state's going to replace California as the place where all of the top quarterbacks and some of the top players are coming from. But getting him all the way out here, hey man, that's a big deal. You would love to love to say that we're going to definitely win this guy. We have an uphill battle with, USC being in the backyard, and they're actually coming up. They're doing a lot better in recruiting and just being, a better team. When USC's up, California's almost on lock for them, but that doesn't mean that they're going to win everybody. And getting Breland out there, I think it was a pretty huge deal.
Yeah. So Breland, we did talk about him in the green room, And there's a couple things I want to point out about him. One, he's taken 2 visits to USC. I think this is probably a USC battle to lose. I think USC could be in a really good position, being from the state of California, trying to reposition themselves like Oklahoma and locking up their state and being that dominant force again. Now, I think it's going to be a lot harder for USC to do that than Oklahoma to do that, just because California is so big and there's so much talent. It's going to be easy for other schools to come in there. But with this recruitment specifically, you see him being offered by some of the biggest schools in college football, Ohio State and Alabama. And then, of course, Colorado with Nick Williams. It's going to be interesting because you have Larry Johnson in on this recruitment, Nick Williams at Colorado, and then you have Holman Wiggins and Freddie Roach at Alabama. Holman Wiggins is an exceptional recruiter and definitely moving up the ranks in terms of best recruiter in the country. I think right now Charles Kelly holds that title, who is now at Colorado but was at Alabama. And he's been there for a while. He's held that title for, I think, 2 years now. But this battle is going to be interesting to me because, again, all of the elite schools and the elite recruiters on him, I would not be shocked if this was a guy that ended up a 5-star consensus player across all of the sites when it's all said and done. And because you kind of heard that the 5 stars are given out not solely just based on your upside and your talent, but it's also kind of based on your offers and how many you get and who you get them from. So if he picks up a couple more offers and he shows out his senior year, this could be a 5-star that everybody across the country is going to want.
Yeah, that's true.
Kind of moving, though, still on the defensive side of the ball, because I want to save the offensive nuggets for here in a minute. But on the defensive side of the ball, you have linebacker Peyton Pierce on campus today. You have Ty Anthony Smith, a 3-star linebacker. You have safety Aaron Flowers, safety Xavier Filsamy, safety Jaden Hardy, and then cornerback Eli Bowen, who is the brother of Peyton Bowen, on campus today. Pretty elite room of secondaries, in my opinion, and I think a very winnable. I'd say 4 guys in terms of Peyton Pierce, Aaron Flowers, Xavier Filsamy, and Eli Bowen, all guys that I think will end up committing to Oklahoma by the end of this class that are on campus today. What's your thoughts here on this group of guys? Because when I look at this room, I'm kind of wondering why we're recruiting so heavily in the secondary again, because we took so many guys and there's so much depth in that room. I don't feel like we're going to lose that many this offseason to warrant needing another 5 or 6 safeties and cornerbacks. But I might be wrong on that one.
So let's look at this. Let me pull up the depth chart real quick. I want to get who we have currently and who we are potentially going to lose. So when you look at your secondary, of course, you got Billy Bowman, who will be a senior, and if he does well, he's gone.
Yeah.
Pearson's gone after this year. So is Woody Washington. On your young side, you've got Gentry Williams, you got Connie Walker, you've got Robert Spears Jennings, you got Jaden Rowe, you've got
Vickers, Josiah
Vickers. Wagner. Right. So the list is long on how many players we have out there, but at the same time, what's the one thing that I said that BV and staff is focusing on? Defense. And so you bring in more players because, 1, iron sharpens iron. 2, you can determine who's actually better. And these young players are going to start pushing these upperclassmen to get better. I know Jaden Rowe's been dealing with shoulder issues, and I think he had shoulder surgery, and so he's done, I think, until the summer. And so because of that, it never hurts to have a large depth of secondary players, especially ones you can interchange from DB to safety. And we're gonna have that. We still have Key Lawrence. So this year we're gonna have a lot of them, but going into next year we're gonna lose a lot if you really think about it. From Yeah, I'm looking at this. Kendall Dolby may make it a year. If he's as good as we expect him to be, there's a good chance that he can get a good rating. He can end up going pro. But I expect him to stay through his senior year.
Yep.
But I don't expect Bowman to be around after this coming season. All because I think that Bowman's going to be really
Bowman is
good.
so talented. That was such a great grab for
Yes,
us.
that's such a great grab. And I think that he's gonna. I think the problem with Bowman going out there is that we're gonna lose him after this year as a junior. Somebody's gonna try to convince him to go pro, especially if he has a breakout year as we're expecting. But
I think Bowman could be a first rounder. That's how good he is. That's how talented he is because he can be a return man for you. I mean, and he can just be a lockdown safety.
I do think that he is. He can get graded in first round. Probably picked late first, mid second. But it's going to depend on this coming season, and I think that he's going to end up having another great year, and it's going to be like, oh, he's here, he's that dude, and so yeah.
So how does that help Oklahoma with potentially having let's say he does go first round? How does that help Oklahoma on the recruiting trail?
Oh, it helps, immensely. I mean, think about it. Kids want to go to schools that are producing NFL players, especially top tier players. Now, don't get it twisted. Some kids just want to go play football and just play football, get a degree, blah, 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 blah. But a lot of the kids, especially your top tier players, they're choosing the schools that's going to better prepare them for the pros. And if we get Bowman into the pros, yeah, that just reflects very well in Oklahoma, in which Oklahoma has produced a lot of NFL defensive players, later rounder guys, but especially ones that graduate, and they're actually contributing to some teams. But having a first rounder, another one, yeah, that's going to be a huge deal because it's been a while.
Yeah, and does that potentially help you land a guy like 5-star safety KJ Bolden, who I know Oklahoma is potentially in the mix for? Now, it's a it's a soft in the mix. It's a maybe in the dreams, but if Billy Bowman has a breakout year this year, and all signs are pointing to, you start to hear rumors of this guy could be a first rounder. I would assume OU could be in that KJ Bolden race.
Yep, 100% agreed. We have a very good opportunity, and the way that Valai and Brandon Hall are recruiting up there on that secondary, man, they're killing it right now. They're killing it.
Yeah, and kind of like what I've said for Colorado, I think goes the same for Oklahoma on the defensive side of the ball. You're going to start to see a lot of these 5-star pieces start to fall, and Oklahoma get more in on these recruitments once players are starting to see the development of the players that are currently there. I don't think it necessarily matters about the record as much as it does if they start to see 5-star Peyton Bowen go out there and just in his freshman year and sophomore year blossom and be just a lockdown safety. Billy Bowman go to the league and have an incredible year. Those are the kind of like things that really impact your recruiting the most, because all of a sudden those players that are being recruited look at what this staff is doing and Brent Venables is doing and say they haven't lost their touch, even though he's a head coach.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's very true. That's a good point.
Yeah, and that's why, like I've told Colorado fans, like, you've got to be patient because you're going to be included in top fives all the time, but you might not see the fruit of that happen till the end of your season, and you might have to see kids flip their commitments because those kids they're potentially leaving it out there, but they're going and collecting their spot at this other school first and waiting to see what Colorado does. Same thing for Oklahoma. These kids are going to wait to see what Oklahoma does this season, and you might see Oklahoma in top fives, and they're going to grab their spot over here at Georgia or Alabama to make sure they have it, just in case things over at Oklahoma doesn't work out.
That's a good, yeah. No, you're right. You're right.
I mean, that would be my thought process as a recruit. That would be my thought process.
Yeah, but PG, you got a crazy thought process.
I do, because yeah, I do. But shifting over to the offensive side of the ball, Oklahoma has, I think, elite recruits across the board. You have the running back in Caden Durham, who I think is an Oklahoma Sooner at this point. Ooh. You have wide receiver Bryant Wesco, which his sister actually goes to Oklahoma. I think she plays soccer here, if I'm correct. Somebody might need to fact check me on that. Yeah. You've also got Zion, I believe his last name is Ragans. What's one of those two maybe? And then tight end Jaden Riddell. when you look at the offensive line, this is kind of where I'm concerned and where I think OU really needs to recruit well this year. You have offensive lineman Casey Poe, who I, again, think is going to be a Sooner, Max Anderson, and Liam Andrews. The offensive line, I think, is crucial because you saw depth problems this past season for OU at that position.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think the staff wants to continue taking guys out of the transfer portal. I think the offensive line will be a position that they do, but I don't think they want to have to rely on it. I think they want to maybe just take one or two really experienced guys out of there a year, but they don't want to have to go out there and get them because they need a starter. They just
Yeah.
want to be able to go out there and get it because they can get experience depth. That's about it. So when I look at the offensive line in 2024, I think it's so crucial that OU goes out there and lands probably 4 or 5 offensive line recruits. And one of those actually is not here today, but he is a fan favorite of Oklahoma. He's loved Oklahoma his whole life. Eddie Pierre-Louis. He's actually listed as a defensive lineman on 247, but he can play on either side of the line, and Bill Bedenbow is recruiting him. So pretty interesting. So looking at that list of offensive guys that are here today, along with, of course, Michael Hawkins, I forgot to mention him.
Oh, yeah.
What are your thoughts around maybe who you think commits out of that offensive group of guys?
Of course, the expectation is that Hawkins will commit, the 31st. Coming out, man, I don't know. In digging in some of these recruits, man, it's tough to really pinpoint which ones we think. And I'm not going to give you guys a hot take or a toss out there a guy that I think is going to immediately give us their commitment this weekend. But the expectation from some of the insiders is that we'll probably get one or two that's going to pop off and say, you know what, this is where I want to be and make it happen. While at the same time, we understand, I talked about at the beginning, that BV has his policy of once you decide, make that your decision and finalize it, and which is a very good philosophy to have, long term, just as an adult, just make the decision and go. But I don't have anybody that I think will immediately. Now, if anything, I could totally see maybe Casey Poe going ahead and saying, yep, I'm going to go here and I'm going to go ahead and train, get all the regimen stuff that I get from the school and go out there and, be the best me. That's always a good one. But there's a lot of really good offensive players on this list, man. Like the Kane Durham kid, I sense he's going to be something absurd.
He's going to
I just special. Do. I just do. It's something about him. I feel it. And then when I saw that Alabama was hardcore on him as well, I was like, yeah. Track players, pay attention. You'll notice that on the defensive side, they're going for guys that are rangy, long, as well as fast. And then on the offensive side, a lot of track players, a lot of track stars. So, and with Durham running his 100 at 10.7 and 1070 and 1072, it's another fast player that's just going to just run up the sidelines and be gone. And so adding him with your Gavin Sawchucks and your Javante Barnes, Oklahoma's building a speed and strong team, which is very hard to do, especially going into the SEC. So, yep, there's going to be some commitments. I can't tell you who because I don't know. Outside of Hawkins, he deleted the tweet that said he wasn't going to commit. So, he pushed his date out. So the date's still the same. I'm expecting him to be the definitive one because he's basically said he's going to commit.
Yeah, so the Hawkins thing I think is interesting because, again, that was a deleted tweet. I think Jeff Lebby committed to Hawkins at that point. He said, I'm not leaving. That's what I believe. And
Agreed.
You've heard some rumblings that that Lebby has told a lot of guys in that locker room and around the circle that he's not going anywhere. So that's good news for Oklahoma fans. We don't have to worry about Jeff Lebby going anywhere. But as far as it comes to Hawkins, if you notice, a lot of schools start out with their quarterbacks, and the quarterbacks are usually the lead recruiter of the classes. And I believe Hawkins is going to be out there today really trying to recruit a lot of these guys heavily to maybe start landing some commitments for Oklahoma so that we can start seeing some fruit here. And I think Caden Durham is one of those guys you could see him wrap up his commitment pretty quickly. Now, I don't think it comes this week, but I think you could see it done by Champion Barbecue. And Caden Durham, would be a huge win because Oklahoma has not been able to successfully win running backs over Alabama recently. And so I think it'll be a relief for Sooner fans to finally get one over Alabama on the running back side over Bama and Holman Wiggins, which, by the way, Holman Wiggins is in on this one again. If you notice, Holman Wiggins is on a lot of these elite recruitments for Alabama because, well, he's probably outside of Nick Saban one of their best recruiters that they have at the moment. Holman Wiggins is just going to be special, and he's going to be a guy that if he gets the offensive coordinator job at Alabama, he's going to be a guy that gets head coaching job or head coaching looks here in probably the next 5 years. Holman Wiggins is just that dude. But I look at it, I think Brian Wesco is a guy that could commit pretty early for Oklahoma. Like I said, just because he's got family ties here. I think that one could be something that's wrapped up pretty quickly. Again, Casey Poe, I don't think he commits this week just because, I've had conversations with him. I don't think he commits this week, but, we could be seeing something pretty quickly for Casey Poe. Again, probably before Champion Barbecue. I think what we saw in July for Oklahoma is going to be something similar this year.
Ooh, really?
Yes. Because that's you're giving everybody about 6 months from Junior Day. And there will be another Junior Day on March 3rd. And then you'll have the Champion Barbecue. So I think you're going to have a good opportunity to have a good July. Kind of like what we did in 2022.
Huh. So going up to Champ U is basically when you're expecting all these commits to come through.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. I think you'll get probably one or two. But at Champ U, and I'm going to go ahead and put it out there now, my predictions, I think David Stone commits to Champ U Barbecue. And that's what I think starts it.
So that's going to be the
I think that's going to be the cake. Yeah, I think that's going to be the cookie that starts the crumble.
Okay. We're going to hold you to that.
Because, hey, you get a 5-star, top 5 player in the country in the defensive lineman, David Stone.
I mean, that's huge.
Why would guys not want to start committing at that point? Because you obviously know Oklahoma's trying to do something special.
Right. No, hands down, 100%. Totally agree with you there. Yeah. And getting him to go ahead and commit and then and one thing I've learned about, I think that's why I think the 23 class is so special to me, is that you could see all of them were recruiting together. Like the players were recruiting each other.
They had a players group chat, and there were guys that hadn't even been committed yet that were in that group chat for months.
Mm-hmm. And they just recruiting each other, hanging out, trying to build a true family environment and make some big changes here. And I think that class is going to be the class that's going to lead this school to a potential title. Or at least playoff berth.
No, yeah. I think the 2024 class combined with the 2023 class, I think in 2025 OU wins the national championship.
I can see it.
Because 2025, you're going to see these 2024 guys on the field. And the 2023 guys at that point will be, what, redshirt juniors and seniors?
Roughly, yeah.
Yeah, redshirt juniors, and then you'll have some seniors out of that class at that point. So I could be seeing a natty for Oklahoma very, very soon. BV said give him 3 years. 3 years. That's what he said.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people don't recognize that or want to acknowledge that his basically what he said when he came in. Give me 3 years. And to be honest, I think the defense changes next year. And I think the year after that, the team is going to be just absurd.
Well, because I think people are undervaluing the hire of James Skowski at the linebacker position, which, by the way, you also have TD Roof, not Ted Roof, TD Roof on the staff as well as a graduate assistant helping out. When TD Roof, which, mind you, if he was healthy, probably would have been a starter this year.
Yeah. Yeah, if he didn't get hurt before the season, yeah, he would have.
He's definitely that good. And if you notice, the linebackers really didn't. They really weren't making like huge mistakes constantly. Like they would give up a couple big, like they would give up a couple big plays, but other than that, they were playing pretty sound all season, and you could see that in their production and their stats.
Yep.
It was just the things that killed Oklahoma this year were chunk plays. That's what it came down to. Oklahoma would just give up some big chunk plays to some teams, and that's how they lost those one possession games. And I think you're going to see a lot of that get cleaned up over the season with a lot of the guys we took in 2023 and then some of the guys in 2022. But talking about two guys that were supposed to make it today that have not and have been confirmed not to make it. You have 5-star wide receiver Micah Hudson and the 5-star defensive back Kobe Black. Now, I think Oklahoma lands Micah Hudson just because of the relationship with Emmett Jones. Again, another hire I think a lot of people are undervaluing because
Right now, yeah.
Emmett Jones, I'm not going to say has Rashad Samples' influence in Texas, but
I would.
it's pretty close. I mean, you're hearing conversations of how the relationships that Emmett Jones has in Duncanville, Texas, could potentially get OU in a Colin Simmons recruitment. The number 5 overall player in this class and the number 1 edge. Now, mind you, again, like KJ Bolden, I think that's a really soft, entrance. I don't think OU lands him, but you're hearing rumblings that OU could maybe try to get in on that recruitment with Emmett Jones. And then with the 5-star wide receiver, we talked about it 3 or 4 months ago when we were kind of just briefly looking at the 2024 class. Said OU was going to land one of the top 3 wide receivers, whether it was Bryant Wingo, Micah Hudson, or that kid down in Florida. Well, they got Emmett Jones and Micah Hudson's right there. As far as Kobe Black goes, he's currently at A&M. I've said it to you, and I know you kind of think I'm a little out there for this. I think Kobe Black is an Oklahoma State commit to lose. What's your thoughts here on these two guys?
I don't see Oklahoma State winning them. I just don't. You say that, but I don't see it. I don't see it. I just don't. I don't see Oklahoma State winning him that easily. But at the same time, I mean, we've seen crazier stuff happen. But yeah, it's gonna be some work for Gundy and them to win them over. They're still revamping their staff, adding new coaches or whatnot. And so there's a chance, but I don't know because I think Oklahoma State just hired a defensive coordinator recently.
Yes.
And I don't know what their relationship is with Kobe Black, but
it's mainly because his brother's there. It's mainly because of his brother.
I mean, I get that. I mean, we got to see how long his brother's going to be there, though, right?
His brother could hit the portal.
I mean, they've had a lot of players hit the portal, and I say that not to, really clown State, but that's kind of the problem they're dealing with right now.
Yeah,
had a lot of turnover, a lot of starters leave, big contributors. So we'll see how that works out, but I can see Oklahoma coming in here in the Kobe sweepstakes. At least get him in the same state. Maybe he can convince Corey to come over to OU with him, which, we're starting to see some O State players consider coming to Oklahoma also. But the Michael Hudson piece, I think he's probably the one that will probably win. Like you mentioned, the Emmett Jones hire is one that's very much underrated. I talked about it in my video of him being a coach in the Dallas area for as long as he was. I think it was over 10 years. Having that rapport around the area and getting to know folks, man, that's a huge deal in DFW. And at the same time, he's got a pretty far reach outside of just Dallas in the recruiting world. So that's a huge deal. He's going to win some players that we didn't know we could have won, just because of his presence. So I'm really high on the Emmett Jones hire.
Yeah, I love the hire, and yeah, I mean, there's nothing I can say that you didn't say and that we didn't say before about Emmett Jones. So,
oh yeah,
looking at 2025, we do have 2 recruits that are here. The 5-star tight end Devon Mitchell, who is good friends and teammates with, former teammate of Michael Hawkins, and then you have the other kid, and I don't have him pulled up, Andrew Marsh, the 4-star wide receiver, top 100 player. So those are 2 to look at. I don't think I really have much to say because it's 2025 and I mean, we're just now getting to 2024 cycle. So it's so far away, but I think OU's in good position for Devon Mitchell if you can land Michael Hawkins.
Yeah, definitely. I think we can get them as like a as a package deal. And like you said, it's early. We're now just really, I mean, depending on how deep in the recruiting world you are, you probably know about these kids from like 4 years ago. I mean, we're looking at 25 players as well. There's some 2025 players in town also. And so, yeah, it's one of those, we got a long ways to go, but now we're going to start ramping up and all the information and the true evaluations are going to start coming out and we'll start knowing where we sit with them and who they are over the next couple months. And so, yeah, that's definitely to keep an eye out here on this channel to learn about a lot of these players and, what things look like.
Yeah. So this is the January, what is today? The 28th junior
Yep.
day for Oklahoma. There's another one on March 3rd. So we'll have to pay attention and see who maybe didn't come to this one that's going to come to the March 3rd one. And then obviously after the March 3rd junior day, you have Champ U barbecue. So those are three major events for Oklahoma that impact our recruiting pretty massively. So if you want to stay in the know, you can come here to the PG show. We'll talk about the March 3rd junior day once we get closer to that. Also,
Yep.
I know Jay with Unfair Sports over there will be talking about it as well. But Jay, go ahead and give them the plug. Where can they find you at?
Yeah, just search on YouTube, Unfair Sports. We're getting back ramped up. Took a few days of work and just not, really diving too deep into stuff. Well, diving into it, just not making content. So we'll have our content going, especially throughout the off season. We'll talk a lot about the current roster and all of that. So just search, on YouTube, Unfair Sports, and you'll see PG on there as well. We do a lot of cross collaboration as a family. So yeah, man, thanks for having me on as usual.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you coming on. So, and you guys, obviously, you can find me here, but you guys can go over to Twitter and we can job back and forth at the PG Show _. Or you guys can find me on Instagram as well. We're really starting to dabble in the Instagram game, the PG Show.cfb. So go ahead, click the follow button over there. We'll be doing some giveaways. Especially maybe with the football season. I'm thinking about maybe doing some jerseys or something later in the summer. So you'll definitely want to go ahead and hit that follow button. Maybe hit the notifications because you never know when I might be posting a giveaway. So, but thank you guys for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Jump down in the comments below. Let us know who you guys are most excited for that is visiting today on Junior Day, January 28th.
Yeah, let us know.